Hello， 大家好，你好嗎？我係李樺，我住喺香港43年，我好愛香港。So I moved to Hong Kong with my family in 1979 in January when I was 9 years old, and pretty much stayed in Hong Kong throughout the 90s, the 2000s, up until when we left Hong Kong last year, although I did live in the Middle East for a little while. When I was 9 years old, the first thing I remember, and I can still remember it right now, was the aroma of the streets. So we stayed in a hotel in Causeway Bay, the Lee Gardens Hotel, Lei Yun. You know, cooking smells, new types of food, obviously refuse smells as well, some of the back alleys. I'm 54 now, lived in Hong Kong for 43, 44 years. You know, that's almost all of my life. So there are so many formative moments that have made me who I am growing up in Hong Kong, from experiencing our first typhoon, you know, living, okay, so I moved from England. I lived in a bungalow, a one-storey dwelling, and we found ourselves living on the 24th floor in Baguio Villas, Baguio Wai. And our first typhoon, I think it was 1981. It was a big one. It was either Typhoon Hope or Typhoon Ellen. I remember the water in the toilet was sloshing around and the ceiling fan was swaying, and then we realized that the building is moving, which it's designed to do, but that was a very disconcerting experience. How much do I love Hong Kong? I think that's almost impossible to quantify. You know, when you grow up somewhere, it becomes part of you and you become part of it. You know, I went from a child to a man in Hong Kong. I was married in Hong Kong, my daughter was born in Hong Kong. You know, it's part of our life story, and that will never change, even though I'm not physically living in Hong Kong anymore. I think when you fall in love with a place, it gets under your skin, it gets into your blood. So even though I'm Guaylo, I will always be a Guaylo, I see myself as a Hong Konger as well. Reasons to leave Hong Kong. Well, like I said earlier, nothing lasts forever. My wife and I, we had always wanted another adventure. COVID hit different people in different ways, because our daughter was at university in England. My father was getting old and had some health issues. And with the travel restrictions and the quarantine, basically I couldn't travel. I refused to. I did a hotel quarantine once and I couldn't do that again. Because our daughter was stuck, she couldn't come back to England, to Hong Kong. That's not the only reason. I think the changing political situation as well, even though I wasn't directly affected by that, I guess I was emotionally affected by that. And as an artist, you know, to start to second guess, if I paint a picture, is that going to be seen as against the national security law or approved by the national, you know, as a creative person, these kind of situation is not ideal. Having grown up in Hong Kong, and grown up in a Hong Kong where free expression, freedom of speech was taken for granted, and that environment afforded me many opportunities in life, which I'm very grateful for. And to see a lot of the young Hong Kongers who I worked with over the years, who I've employed over the years, to be denied some of those freedoms for self-expression or speech makes me sad and makes me angry, because it's unnecessary. So yes, I guess I shed a tear for a Hong Kong of yesterday and a Hong Kong of yesteryear. It was an important time in Hong Kong's history, and to be able to launch this show in London where I know I can exhibit it. I guess it's designed to just continue to shine a spotlight on Hong Kong and on some of the undeniable loss of freedoms in Hong Kong that are happening, and I guess some of the injustices that are happening there as well. I think I get sort of emotionally connected to different artworks, some more so than others. This one in particular, which is called All Quiet at the Library. So you can see clearly the characters I've created, who are inspired by the protesters themselves and some of their youthful haircuts that you see on the streets of Hong Kong. And clearly they are all silenced, hence the zips for mouths. But I think one of the things that really sort of made me more sad than anything else was hearing some of the absurd banning of certain books, songs, even cartoons, which is why Bart Simpson is making an appearance down there. I think they banned an episode of The Simpsons. All of the words are from Chairman Mao himself, taken from his famous Little Red Book. And ironically, a lot of what Chairman Mao said back in the late 1940s is what a lot of the youth of Hong Kong were actually asking for. And I was very much inspired by an artist called Keith Haring and a lot of his early subway work in New York. And I wanted to do something very monochrome, black and white, because that really captured for me just the somber mood that some of the changes have brought about in a lot of people in Hong Kong. And to see that animosity between Hong Kong youth and Hong Kong authorities was quite shocking for all of us. So really I felt the need to just capture that moment in time with one collection which was above the protests, which was looking down on the umbrellas and the tear gas and the water cannon. And then, as we all know, the national security law came in, and suddenly it was illegal to say certain things or communicate certain ideas or thoughts. Hong Kong people, a lot of Hong Kong people I know, feel like their voice has been taken away. If I was still in Hong Kong working as an artist, I'm sure most of my artwork would be fine. But the fact that you have to stop and think really is not a great environment for being an artist. If you have to censor yourself, I just think that's a sad thing. I just think it's needless, really. Yeah, I know the piece of work you're talking about, the big sculpture that was at one of the universities, that was a gift, I think, to the university or the people of Hong Kong. Again, like I said, I just think it's a really sad situation when a powerful regime is afraid of artwork and afraid of the ideas that it may represent. So there's a few things I've chosen. The first item is this piece of furniture here, which is a traditional wedding cabinet. This particular item has been with us for many, many years, obviously bought in Hong Kong, but it's moved around all our different homes, different places we've lived in Hong Kong and the Middle East, and now the fact that it's here in North Yorkshire in England, it's still a reminder that this is our home. And it carries a lot of memories for us. And this is a piece of artwork by a very good friend of mine, Will Furness, who's a photographer, still living and working in Hong Kong. He would basically have film in the camera and he'd only wind it on halfway and take his next shot. And this was a journey he took walking the streets through Wan Chai and all the neon, and captured there is an old club, Neptune's, somewhere in Wan Chai. Where I actually proposed to my wife one evening many years ago. So the third item I've chosen is these bird cages. Obviously there's three of them there that I've painted many years ago. But the reason I've chosen these, again, they capture a lot of memories of Hong Kong, particularly a lot of those old market streets in Mongkok, where each street was set aside for a different purpose. So there was a flower street, there was a bird street, and a lot of those streets are disappearing. You know, or certainly the traders that traditionally were located in those places. And that collection, my first collection, Street, was really celebrating a lot of the disappearing parts of Hong Kong. And the bird cages for us, I guess, symbolise that. And the fact that the doors are open is a subtle nod to we should all be free, I guess. And we do miss Hong Kong. We miss, I think the most important thing we miss about Hong Kong is friends. Some of the friends and people that have been part of our lives who are still in Hong Kong. But you know what? Nothing lasts forever as well. So I'm kind of philosophical that if you make a decision, whatever your next chapter is in life, then you have to be positive and move forward and embrace that next chapter, you know. And if you're too unhappy in your new chapter, then make another chapter. Yo, look, Ngoy. Lido, Ngoy, hai ni do peng.
多謝大家支持追新聞，請訂閱我哋嘅 channel 同撳埋個鐘仔，感激沿途有你哋嘅支持。